The flickering blue light of her phone was the only illumination in Chloe's quiet apartment in New York City. She was a chef, a culinary artist who poured her soul into every dish at her new restaurant. Tonight, she had finally dared to check the online reviews, a moment she both craved and dreaded. The first few reviews were glowing, like a warm embrace of validation. But then her heart froze as she saw it. A brutal one-star review accusing her of serving pre-made slop and calling her a pretentious amateur. Chloe's stomach turned as the pride of her day curdled into a bitter and indigestible lump. She had worked 18-hour shifts and risked her entire life savings. And all for this? Suddenly, the vibrant future she envisioned for her restaurant felt fragile and threatened by these few harsh words from a stranger. Sounds really familiar, right? Well, here's the brutal truth. Criticism will find you whether you're building a business, pursuing a relationship, or simply existing in this world. It's an inevitable companion on the path to anything meaningful. But what if I told you that the ancient Stoics discovered a way to turn every harsh word, every cutting remark, and every devastating review into rocket fuel for your growth? Today, you'll learn how to handle criticism like a warrior and not a victim. We're talking about emotional mastery, unyielding integrity, and unshakable self-worth forged in the fires of disapproval. Before we dive into battlefield tactics, let's get one thing clear. Most people handle criticism like emotional toddlers. They either crumble under the weight of disapproval or lash out in defensive rage. Both responses are unproductive and can trap you in the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, faced criticism from senators, citizens, and even his own family. Yet he wrote, "How much trouble he avoids, the one who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." This isn't about ignoring feedback. It's about understanding that other people's opinions are not your reality. They are not the truth. The Stoics understood something profound. Criticism tells you more about the critic than it does about yourself. When someone attacks you, they reveal their insecurities, limitations, and pain. A secure and fulfilled person doesn't need to tear others down. They're too busy building their own lives and carving their own paths. When you're truly confident in your journey, aligned with your values, and giving your best effort, do you spend time lashing out at strangers on the internet? Of course not. How often are you hijacked by emotions you find really difficult to control when criticized? Let me share a story about James, a software developer from Austin who spent 3 meticulous years perfecting an app, coding, refining, and testing it. He sacrificed weekends and ignored friends, driven by the vision of a seamless user experience. When he finally released it, a prominent tech blogger wrote a scathing review, calling it amateur hour and predicting its swift demise. James's heart sank with a familiar tightening in his chest. He spent the next week obsessing over every word, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to send angry and defensive emails to the blogger. He even considered scrapping the entire project, feeling that those 3 years of his life were utterly wasted. Then, James discovered the Stoic principle of the Dichotomy of Control, which divides everything in life into 2 categories: things you can control and things you cannot. The Stoics taught that wisdom comes from understanding this distinction and focusing your energy exclusively on what you can influence. James realized he was pouring energy into something completely outside his control, another person's opinion, while neglecting what he could control, improving his product, learning from valid points, and building resilience. The blogger's words weren't just criticism. They were a mirror showing James where he was wasting his power, throwing away precious time on a battle he couldn't win. The moment James shifted his focus from external judgment to internal improvement, everything changed. He used the criticism as data, not destruction. He objectively analyzed the review, identified 3 legitimate points about user interface improvements, and ruthlessly ignored the personal attacks. 6 months later, his updated app, honed by that very criticism, gained national recognition, a testament to his shift from being a victim of opinion to a master of his own craft. Here's the Stoic truth that can change your life. You control your actions, your responses, and your growth. You don't control what others think, say, or write about you. Stop wasting your energy on battles you can't win, and start focusing on the ones you can dominate. This is where your true power lies. However, the dichotomy of control isn't just about external criticism. It also involves internal criticism. You can't control the automatic thoughts that arise when someone attacks you, nor can you control your initial emotional reactions, such as anger or hurt. But you can control what you do with those thoughts and emotions. You have the power to nurture them or let them go. You can choose whether to let them drive your actions or to observe them with detachment. You decide whether to use them as fuel for growth or allow them to become toxic. What if everything you believe you control is actually beyond your grasp? And everything you think is beyond your control is actually within your power. Not all criticism is created equal. The Stoics were master strategists who understood that different battles require different weapons. In all, you will encounter 4 types of critics, each necessitating a specific Stoic response. First, let's discuss the constructive critic. Take Lisa, a graphic designer from Chicago, who received harsh feedback from a longtime client. The client, usually mild-mannered, was furious, claiming her latest logo design lacked creativity and professional polish, a complete step backward. Lisa felt a surge of anger and was instinctively inclined to defend her work and blame the impossible deadlines. Although the client's tone was harsh, Lisa had been studying Stoic philosophy for months. Instead of becoming defensive, she applied the Stoic virtue of wisdom. So she paused, took a deep breath, and asked herself the most important question a Stoic can ask. Is there truth in this criticism that can make me better? After swallowing her pride, she examined the feedback objectively. It was uncomfortable, but the answer was clear. Yes, there was some truth in the criticism. The client's delivery may have been rough, but the core message was valid. Lisa had rushed the project to meet a tight deadline, compromising her usual high standards. Instead of making excuses or defending her work, Lisa did something remarkable. She thanked the client for the honest, albeit harsh, feedback and sincerely apologized for not meeting expectations, and proactively asked for the opportunity to redesign the logo at no additional cost. She invested extra hours, pushed her creative boundaries, and ultimately produced her best work to date, a design that exceeded even her initial vision. The shocked client, impressed by Lisa's professionalism and maturity, became her biggest advocate, referring 3 major accounts within the following year. What could have been a blow to her confidence became a catalyst for her professional breakthrough, and a moment of profound transformation. The Stoic response to constructive critics is simple: thank them. Even if their delivery is rough, they are providing you with free coaching. According to Seneca, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Let their criticism end your mediocrity and mark the beginning of your excellence. This isn't about being a doormat. It's about being strategic. It's crucial to distinguish that constructive criticism focuses on behavior, performance, or outcomes. It is specific, actionable, and aimed at improvement. Although it may be delivered harshly, the underlying intent is ultimately to help you become better. The second type of critic is the jealous destroyer, where the battlefield becomes uglier, but where Stoic wisdom shines even brighter. Consider Michael from Phoenix, who tirelessly built a successful YouTube channel teaching guitar. He dedicated hours to learning complex theory, practicing intricate riffs, and perfecting his camera presence. As his subscriber count grew, so did the stream of venomous hate comments on his videos. "You're not even that good. Your technique is sloppy. I've seen better tutorials from beginners. Quit pretending you're a teacher. You are a fraud." These attacks were personal, relentless, and clearly designed to tear him down rather than build him up. Michael found himself scrolling through the comments for hours, feeling his stomach clench and the joy of teaching drain away. He almost quit. He spent sleepless nights reading every negative comment, analyzing each critique, and doubting his worth. Was he good enough? Was he really a fraud? The doubt was consuming him and threatening to derail everything he had built. Then he discovered Epictetus's powerful teaching. If someone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, respond with, "He must be ignorant of my other faults, or he would have mentioned more than these alone." This wasn't just ancient wisdom, it was a profound psychological insight. Michael realized something crucial. The jealous destroyers attack because your success highlights their own stagnation. Their criticism isn't about you. It reflects their own inability to take action, their fear of putting themselves out there, and their shame at watching someone else do what they are too scared to attempt. Their words are often a desperate lashing out, rather than a reasoned critique. If someone is truly better than you at something, or genuinely on a higher path, they don't need to tear you down to prove it. They demonstrate their superiority through their own work and example. The people who attack you aren't confident in their abilities. They're attempting to drag you down to their level because they cannot rise to yours. Michael stopped engaging with these critics. He continued creating, teaching, and improving, fueled by an understanding of their true motivations. He used their criticism as confirmation that he was on the right path. If he wasn't threatening anyone and wasn't making progress, nobody would bother attacking him. For Michael, hate comments became metrics of success, and today he has over 250,000 subscribers and makes a living doing what he loves, with his channel serving as a beacon for aspiring guitarists. The Stoic response to jealous critics is clear. Pity them and move on. Don't feed the trolls with your attention. Your success is their punishment, and your happiness is their torment. Every moment spent engaging with them is a moment stolen from your own growth and mission. This is not weakness, it is strategic indifference. However, there is a deeper lesson here. When you understand that jealous criticism stems from the critic's own pain, you can respond with compassion rather than anger. You don't need to engage, but you can recognize that their attacks come from a place of suffering and unfulfilled potential. This understanding doesn't excuse their behavior, but it frees you from taking it personally. It becomes their problem, not yours. The third type of critic is the perfectionist paralyzer, who might even be yourself. Let me share Rebecca's story. Rebecca, an entrepreneur from Seattle, poured years into developing her first custom stationery product. When she finally launched it, she received mixed reviews. While 80% of customers loved it and praised her work, the 20% who didn't became her sole obsession. She read every negative review multiple times, agonizing over every complaint and dissecting every criticism. Her initial excitement for her new venture slowly evaporated, replaced by suffocating anxiety. She created spreadsheets tracking negative feedback, spent hours crafting defensive responses to harsh reviews, and began second-guessing every business decision, from her choice of paper to her pricing strategy. This minority opinion paralyzed her progress and poisoned her confidence, preventing her from expanding or enjoying her hard-won success. This is where the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, imagining potential setbacks, becomes crucial. But Rebecca was approaching it incorrectly. Instead of preparing for criticism to build resilience, she was dwelling on it to the point of paralysis, allowing the fear of criticism to control her actions. The true Stoic practice involves mentally rehearsing challenges before they occur, and building psychological armor so that when the blow lands, it doesn't shatter you. It's about building robustness and not picking at emotional wounds. Rebecca learned to expect criticism as an inevitable and even necessary part of any worthwhile endeavor. She accepted that not everyone would love her product, and that was okay. Marcus Aurelius faced criticism for his philosophical writings, military campaigns, and leadership decisions. Roman citizens questioned his strategies, senators challenged his policies, and historians would later debate his legacy. Yet he understood that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. He didn't let critics change his character or derail his mission. He maintained his course, driven by his principles rather than by popular opinion. The Stoic response to perfectionist paralyzers is acceptance. Accept that excellence attracts criticism. Accept that you can't please everyone, and if you try, you'll please no one, least of all yourself. Accept that if everyone agrees with you, you are probably not doing anything significant or truly innovative. Innovation requires stepping outside the comfort zone of consensus. However, acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging reality without being defeated by it. It means expecting criticism while remaining committed to your vision. It means understanding that the path to excellence is paved with disapproval from those who choose mediocrity and from those who are too afraid to step out themselves. Are you battling your emotions instead of mastering them when criticism comes your way? The fourth type, the internal critic, is the most dangerous. This is the insidious voice in your head that amplifies every external criticism and finds ways to make you doubt yourself. This is the ultimate lesson in self-mastery. Let me tell you about Tyler, a passionate writer from Miami who lived and died by book reviews. He had poured years into his debut novel, sacrificing sleep, relationships, and even his sanity for his art. A 5-star review would lift his spirits for days, providing a euphoric high that temporarily quieted his ever-present self-doubt. In contrast, a 2-star review would crush him for weeks, sending him spiraling into a dark pit of self-loathing. He was like an emotional yo-yo, completely controlled by the fleeting opinions of strangers regarding his work. Tyler's internal critic was relentless. Whenever he received positive feedback, that voice would whisper, "They're just being nice. You don't deserve it." Conversely, when faced with negative feedback, the same voice would scream, "See? You're not good enough. You never were. You're a fraud." This internal dialogue proved far more destructive than any external criticism he'd ever encountered, as it was always there, eroding his foundation. The breakthrough came when Tyler embraced the Stoic concept of the internal versus external scorecard. Instead of measuring his worth based on others' temporary approval, he began to evaluate himself against his own steadfast standards of virtue. Did he write with courage? Did he express the truth as he saw it? Did he put his best effort into every page? Did he strive to benefit his readers in some meaningful way? These were the metrics that truly mattered. When Tyler shifted from desperately seeking external validation to rigorously maintaining internal integrity, criticism lost its power over him. He still acknowledged feedback. He wasn't ignoring reality, but it no longer defined his worth or derailed his mission. Feedback became mere data points and not verdicts. Stoicism teaches us that your value isn't determined by popular opinion. It stems from your character, your effort, and your steadfast commitment to virtue. Build your identity on principles that cannot be shaken by someone else's opinion, no matter how loud or numerous. This is where much self-help advice falls short. They often suggest you build confidence or love yourself more, which is merely emotional fluff based on fleeting feelings. The Stoics constructed something far more powerful, an internal fortress that no external force could breach, a foundation of character that no storm could shake. Your internal fortress isn't built on feelings, it's built on principles. It doesn't rely on what others think about you. It is based on what you know about yourself. It isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's anchored in internal character, your choices, and your actions. When you build this fortress, criticism becomes just the weather outside your walls. Sometimes it's sunny, other times it's stormy, but you remain secure inside. You can observe the weather, prepare for it, but you should not let it dictate your internal climate. Seneca regularly practiced imagining loss, criticism, and setbacks, not to be pessimistic, but to build psychological armor. When you mentally rehearse how to handle criticism, when you've already faced the worst-case scenario in your mind, the actual criticism loses its sting. Try this Stoic exercise. Before launching any project, giving any presentation, or putting yourself out there in a significant way, spend 5 minutes imagining the worst possible criticism you might receive. Play it out in your mind. How would you respond? What would you learn? How would you grow? This isn't paranoia, it's premeditated preparation. When criticism inevitably comes, you'll be ready. But here's the advanced level of this practice. Don't just imagine receiving criticism. Envision receiving it from people you respect most. Picture your mentor criticizing your work. Imagine your hero pointing out your flaws. When you can handle criticism from those whose opinions matter most, that is when you become truly unshakable and genuinely free. Have you ever wondered how some people remain calm in chaos while others crumble under pressure? Amanda from Portland learned this lesson the hard way. She was an independent journalist, passionate about social justice, and made the mistake of sharing her nuanced political views on social media during a heated election season, believing in open dialogue. Within hours, her notifications exploded with angry comments, personal attacks, baseless accusations, and threats to boycott her business. She watched her follower count drop, saw negative reviews appear on her business page, and felt a tightening knot of public disapproval and panic. Her first instinct was to delete everything and hide from the impending storm. However, she had been training herself in Stoic philosophy and conditioning her mind daily. She recognized this as a test and a moment to embody the principles she was learning. Instead of retreating, Amanda decided to apply the Stoic virtue of courage. She chose not to engage with the trolls, knowing that it would be foolish and a waste of energy. Yet, retreating would be cowardly and a betrayal of her values. Staying true to her beliefs, she upheld her dignity and maintained self-control. She thoughtfully responded to legitimate questions and inquiries, calmly providing context and ruthlessly ignoring the toxic noise, refusing to give it an inch of her mental space. Amanda realized that trying to please everyone means standing for nothing. She discovered that authenticity attracts both love and hate, but inauthenticity attracts neither. The customers and followers who left were swiftly replaced by those who respected her courage, integrity, and values, forming a much stronger and more loyal community. 6 months later, Amanda's business was stronger than ever, built on a foundation of integrity and an authentic community. She learned one of the most important lessons in life. Your reputation with the right people matters infinitely more than your reputation with everyone. The true test of integrity is having the courage to be disliked by people whose values don't align with yours. This is the Stoic path, not the easy path, but the worthy path. It requires you to define your own values and live by them regardless of public opinion. It demands that you choose integrity over popularity and authenticity over approval. But here's what Amanda discovered that changed everything. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to attract the right people. When you stand for something, you give others permission to stand with you. When you show courage in the face of criticism and refuse to buckle, you inspire others to find their own courage and define their own truths. The Stoic virtue of courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting with integrity despite fear. It's about doing what is right, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something, and even when it draws the ire of the crowd. Here, we enter warrior territory. This is where criticism stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you can use as a weapon for your own advancement. The Stoics understood that adversity reveals character, and criticism is simply another form of adversity. Every harsh comment, every unfair attack, and every moment of public disapproval presents an opportunity to practice virtue and build strength. When someone criticizes you, thank them publicly. This completely disarms the attack and demonstrates supreme confidence. A simple, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll consider how this can help me improve," can transform the dynamic instantly. The critic expects defensiveness, anger, or retreat. They don't expect gratitude and a commitment to growth. This response does something powerful. It shows that you're not controlled by their opinion. It demonstrates that you're secure enough to consider criticism without feeling threatened by it. It reveals that you're more interested in improvement than in being right. But the real power of this approach isn't in how it affects the critic. It's in how it affects you. When you respond to criticism with gratitude, you train yourself to see opportunity in adversity. You build the mental habit of extracting value from every experience, even the painful ones. Before reacting to any criticism, filter it through the 4 cardinal Stoic virtues. Firstly, wisdom. Is there truth that I can extract from this feedback, even if it's buried in venom? Secondly, justice. Is my response fair and proportionate, or am I lashing out? Thirdly, courage. Am I responding from strength and integrity, or from weakness and fear? Lastly, temperance. Am I maintaining self-control and mastering my emotions, or letting them run wild? When you develop this filtering system, criticism becomes a tool for character development. Each attack becomes an opportunity to practice virtue. Each harsh comment becomes a chance to demonstrate grace under pressure and solidify your mental resilience. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a public speaker from Denver, who faced the ultimate test of this philosophy. She believed she had delivered her best presentation ever to a room full of industry professionals. Shay had diligently prepared for months, rehearsed countless times, and had delivered it with passion and conviction, with the most amazing electric connection with the audience. However, as she was leaving the stage, feeling immensely proud of her performance, one audience member, a seasoned veteran of the industry, approached her with a devastating comment. "That was the most boring speech I've ever heard. You literally put half the room to sleep. I can't believe they actually paid you to speak." The words hit her like a physical blow, stripping away her confidence in an instant. Jennifer's old self would have been utterly destroyed, replaying those words for weeks, questioning every speaking engagement, and probably giving up on public speaking altogether. However, Jennifer had relentlessly trained herself in Stoic principles, building her mental resilience brick by brick. Instead of crumbling, she saw this as valuable intelligence. And taking a deep breath, she looked the person in the eye and calmly thanked them for their feedback. She then requested specific feedback about what could be improved and what exactly made it boring. She chose to use the criticism as fuel for growth. Later that same evening, Jennifer reviewed her presentation objectively, identifying areas for improvement in her delivery and content. She adjusted her entire approach. More importantly, she realized that criticism had become her teacher rather than her enemy. Soon, she began actively seeking out honest feedback and was eager for it, knowing that each critique, no matter how harsh, was another opportunity to improve. She started ending her presentations by directly asking, "What's one thing I could do differently to serve you better next time?" She welcomed the discomfort and embraced the growth. Her next speech received a standing ovation, but that wasn't the real victory. The true victory was that Jennifer had transformed her relationship with criticism. She learned to see it as free coaching, more like a strategic gift from people who have absolutely no obligation to help her improve. If this video is helping you view criticism in a new light, give it a thumbs up. Your support signals that you're serious about building mental toughness. The ultimate Stoic reframe is that criticism is actually free coaching. While some of it is valuable, some is also noise, but all of it teaches you something, either about your craft or about human nature. When you adopt this perspective, you stop being a victim of criticism and start being a student of it. You begin to recognize patterns, the critics who offer valuable insights and those who are just noise. You develop the ability to extract wisdom from harsh feedback while maintaining your emotional equilibrium and an unshakable inner calm. Here's the deeper lesson. The people who criticize you the most are often the ones teaching you the most about resilience. They're providing free resistance training for your character. Every unfair attack builds your strength, and every harsh judgment fortifies your internal compass. The Stoics understood that the same fire that melts butter also hardens steel, and that criticism tends to reveal what you're made of. If your self-worth depends on others' approval, criticism will melt you down into a puddle of insecurity. But if your identity is based on virtue and character, criticism will only make you stronger, tempering you into something unbreakable. Do you compromise your integrity for convenience? Or do you stand firm in your principles even when criticized? Now, here's your daily strategy against criticism. Your mental battle plan. Each morning, before starting your day, remind yourself that criticism is inevitable for anyone doing meaningful work. Set your internal scorecard. What standards will you measure yourself against today? Not others' standards, but your own standards. By midday, when criticism comes, and it will, pause and breathe. This pause is crucial because it's the space between stimulus and response, which is where your power lies. In that pause, ask yourself, what would serve my character better? Reacting emotionally and defensively like a child, or responding thoughtfully and strategically like a warrior? By evening, examine any criticism you received that day. Extract the lessons, discard the noise, and plan how you'll improve tomorrow. This isn't about dwelling on negative feedback. It's about mining it for value and extracting every ounce of wisdom. Remember Epictetus's powerful words. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Your response to criticism is your philosophy in action. Every moment you choose wisdom over emotion, every time you choose growth over grievance, you're becoming more unbreakable and more stoic. The Stoics understood that adversity reveals character. Criticism is simply another form of adversity, and every form of adversity is an opportunity to practice virtue and to become more of the person you are meant to be. Stop seeing criticism as something to avoid and start viewing it as something to leverage. The same energy that could destroy you can forge you into something unbreakable. Are your relationships built on expectation or genuine connection when criticism arises? Here's something that will change how you perceive every attack. The people who criticize you aren't your enemies. They're your trainers. They're showing up to help you build strength, whether they know it or not. Consider this. If you wanted to build physical strength, you would go to the gym and lift heavy weights. The weights aren't your enemies. They're your tools. They create resistance so you can grow stronger. Critics serve a similar purpose for your character. They provide emotional and psychological resistance, enabling you to develop mental and spiritual strength. This perspective transforms everything. Instead of dreading criticism, you start to expect it as part of the growth process and the journey to excellence. Instead of taking it personally, you recognize it as impersonal resistance training. Instead of allowing setbacks to derail you, use them to develop unshakable inner strength and a resilient mindset that cannot be broken. You have a choice right now. You can either continue letting other people's opinions control your emotions, hinder your progress, and diminish your potential, or you can embrace the Stoic path, the path of the warrior who transforms every attack into advancement and every setback into strength. The ancient Stoics faced wars, plagues, betrayals, and constant public scrutiny. They didn't just survive, they thrived. They left behind philosophies that have guided leaders, entrepreneurs, and warriors for over 2,000 years. You have access to the same wisdom, strategies, and unshakable foundation. The only question is, will you use it? What will you choose when the next criticism comes your way? And it is coming. Remember, criticism isn't your enemy, it's your forge. You are not just the metal being shaped, you're the blacksmith, the fire and the weapon all at once. If you're ready to join a community of modern Stoics who refuse to accept mediocrity, subscribe to the Unapologetic Stoic and hit that notification bell. We're building an army of individuals who turn their pain into power and their setbacks into comebacks. What's the harshest criticism you've ever received? And how did it ultimately make you stronger? Share your story in the comments. It might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep pushing forward. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that criticism can be a catalyst for growth and not a curse. Stay unapologetic. Stay stoic. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll dive deep into how Stoics handle betrayal from their closest allies. A topic that will truly test your understanding of integrity and resilience. The warrior's path isn't always easy, but it's the only path worth walking.